She has become a family and a friend of Full Circle and Switch TV at large. She is a registered dietitian, and we are happy that she is here today. Ashley, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Great. And, you know, every single time you sit here, I live here knowing something else, something fresh, something new, and learning something.
Good. I'm so happy to hear that.
Yeah. So today when you talk about plant-based dieting.
Yes.
What is that?
Yes. So great question. Again, there's a lot of misinformation about it. And when we say plant-based eating, it doesn't mean that you necessarily have to avoid meat completely.
Oh, okay.
You can still have it, but it's about limiting that amount of meat and focusing more on the plant-based foods. So thinking more of the vegetables and the fruits and the whole grains and the nuts and the seeds as being more of the center of the plate, and the meat being more of a garnish. So a smaller serving. Yeah, so, and there's different varieties of plant-based eating that we'll get into, but I don't want to scare anybody off. It can be very...
I'm looking at the plate. You were here a while back, I think a couple of months ago, and you showed us what our plate needs to look like. So we had our fruits and vegetables, the greens, that they had a larger portion.
Yes. The vegetables.
The vegetables.
Yes.
And then we had, that will be like half the plate.
It's fruit and vegetables. Yes.
Fruit and vegetables, half the plate.
Yes.
And then the other half is divided into two.
Very good. Yes. You're awesome.
Where we have our carbs on one quarter, and the other quarter is where we have our meat.
Yes. So, or protein.
Or protein.
Yes.
Protein.
Yes.
So now, when we talk about the plant-based, then the plate changes.
A little bit, or it can.
Okay.
So basically, if you're plant-based, you can have meat, but it will just be a smaller portion.
Smaller than a quarter.
Yes, smaller than a quarter. And it's about having plant-based proteins a couple times throughout the week, rather than always having meat as that protein source. So you can have beans, lentils, you can have tofu, soy products, things like that, depending on the type of plant-based eater that you are. So yeah, it's really about having more of those plant-based foods.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And what is the importance of that? Why should we embrace this kind of dieting?
Yeah, great question. So a lot of the research studies are saying the more plants we eat, the lower our risk is for chronic disease. So diabetes, heart disease, cancers, things like that. Because we're eating more fruits and vegetables, we're getting antioxidants, which is something that's found in plants that reverses cell damage, again, preventing that chronic disease. So that's a key reason for that. Another reason is we're getting more fiber. We talked about gut health a couple weeks back.
Yes.
And so with that, the fiber is going to keep our gut health in check, which can help our immune system, help us be more regular, help our intestinal cells. So again, by getting more plant-based foods, we're getting more nutrition into our diet and a greater variety.
Okay. So plant-based, you could get your protein, but plant-based.
Yes.
It doesn't mean that we are all going to be grazers. We're
Yes.
not, we're not just eating greens and that's it.
Exactly.
You can still have your protein.
Yes.
But it's plant-based.
Absolutely. And you must have protein. It's a very essential part of our diet. But yeah, it's just about switching out what that protein looks like. Again, depending on the type of plant-based eater you are.
Okay.
So maybe we should talk about the different types of plant-based eaters.
Yes.
So there's two main types. So you have a flexitarian or you have a vegetarian.
A what?
Yes. So a flexitarian or a vegetarian. And then there's many different types of vegetarians, and we'll get into that.
Okay.
So first of all, a flexitarian is somebody, I would qualify myself as that. So this is where I eat mostly plants. It's the bulk of my diet, but I still do include meat.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, a vegetarian, we have the lacto-vegetarian. So this is a type of plant-based eater that will avoid meat and fish, but they will include dairy products. Okay. So they will include milk, yogurt, cheese. Okay.
Yes.
Then we have another type of vegetarian called an ovo-vegetarian. And this is a type of vegetarian who will avoid all the other animal products, but they will consume eggs. Okay. Then we have another type, which is lacto-ovo. So they include both dairy and eggs.
Okay.
Yes.
So what they will not do is probably eat the meat, the fish.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. Yep. And then we have a pescatarian, which they include the fish.
Okay.
Yes. So there's many different types of plant-based eaters out there. And the great part is you get to define what you want to do. So you don't have to be so strict. If you want to be, that's great. But it's all about what you decide, what works for you as an individual. And then we get to the strictest type of a plant-based eater, which is a vegan. So they eat no plant-based, or sorry, no animal-based anything.
Okay.
So no dairy, no eggs, and some of them won't even have honey because it's made from bees, which is technically like an animal. Yeah, so it depends. Again, it's all about you as the individual.
Yes.
How are you going to decide, you know, what your plate looks like, and the type of eater that you're going to be.
And this is not based on you being sick or anything. It is just a decision of how you would like to consume your foods.
Absolutely. It's more of an ethical decision. So
Yes.
a lot of people do this as an environmental reason, or it's more sustainable, or it's more affordable, or the health benefits that we talked about. You're getting more fruits and vegetables, so you have lower rates of chronic disease, you have lower cholesterol levels, typically, things like that. So those would probably be the main reasons. But let's say somebody has cancer,
Yes.
it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to go vegan now, or you have to be some sort of a vegetarian. You can, but it's not that you have to be.
Okay. I know who I am.
What are you?
And not really, Ashley, because I like my meat.
Yes.
So if I was to be a plant-based, what
A plant-
it would be flex.
Very good. Flexitarian.
Flexitarian.
Yes, so like me.
Yes.
So we eat a lot of plants,
Yes.
but we still allow for meat.
Okay.
Yes.
And that only applies if I was eating a lot of plants.
Yes. So the idea is
Because
more
then it gives
plant-based.
me an opportunity to still eat my meat
Absolutely.
once in a while.
Absolutely. And you know, and you get to define what that looks like.
Yes.
But it's again this idea that the bulk of your plate is filled with plant-based foods. So your grains, your heart healthy oils that are derived from plants, your fruits, your vegetables, your nuts, your seeds, and then it still does allow a part to be meat, but not an excessive portion.
Okay. So say for example, you are the one that does not have any kind of meat,
Okay.
or it's very minimal.
Yes.
Is it okay? Are you allowed, or probably you allow yourself, rather,
Yeah.
for you to get or, consume supplements to help with that?
Yeah. So not always. You don't always have to have supplements. You can be supplement free and get all your nutrients from a plant-based diet.
Okay.
But it's good that you meet with a registered dietitian so they can assess your diet and make sure that you're getting adequate amounts of protein, that you're getting adequate amounts of iodine, zinc, B12, omega-3s, because those can be a bit tricky. Definitely it's possible to get them all, but just to be mindful of what plant-based foods have those nutrients.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you need someone to guide you if you have no idea.
Yes.
And you feel the need to live this kind of lifestyle.
Absolutely.
So what kind of plants are we looking at? There's some no-go zone kind of plants? Or but if it's a plant, we're going that
Let's do it.
direction.
As long as it's considered edible, yes. Let's eat all the plants. Let's have this key, like the key is always variety. You know, eat the rainbow is such a cliche, thing to
Yes,
say, but literally
yes.
we mean it because the different colors equal different nutrients. And remember we talked about, again, gut health a couple weeks back where we said the key is to have a variety of plants to feed that healthy gut bacteria. So again, it all comes back to having this wide variety of foods.
So even if I'm going vegan, so
Yeah.
I'm going to be very, very strict with what I eat.
Yes.
Even the honey, that was a new one.
Yeah.
I never knew about
Again,
that
it's
one.
up to the
It's
individual.
up to, yes.
Yes.
So you get to decide what it is that you do.
Yes.
Even being a vegan, you're able to get every kind of nutrient that your body needs.
Yes, you absolutely can if you work with a registered dietitian. So,
Okay.
for example, I'll give you a couple examples.
Yes.
So, like omega-3s, this is a key nutrient of concern. So what you can do is include ground flaxseed, chia seed, canola oil, soy products. Those are going to have omega-3s, and they're all plant-based. You know, if we're looking for zinc, we want to make sure that we're having enough beans, legumes, soy products, and so we're able to get that. Another thing that people can keep in mind with zinc is if you do sprouted grains, they're actually going to have more zinc as opposed to just typical grains if you buy the sprouted ones. So that's another tip that people can do for that. You know, B12, that's a bit hard. That's probably one of the hardest ones. But if you're getting, you know, plant-based milks, they can be fortified with B12, meaning that they've added the B12 to those milks or to the plant-based yogurts like a coconut yogurt or a soy yogurt. But you do just have to check for that on the label, and again, a registered dietitian can help you with that. Another nutrient that's really hard is vitamin D. Especially in Kenya. You know, in the West, they do have juices that are fortified with vitamin D or different products, different cereals. But here it's a bit harder, just we have a limited selection. So that is one that you probably would want to do a supplement for. In fact, most people are deficient in vitamin D, so even if you're, you know, not plant-based, I still recommend you're on a vitamin D supplement just because it's so important. You know, but again, you can get vitamin D from the sun, but we have to be careful with skin cancer and our sunscreen and things, so it's best to check with your doctor, but that is probably the one key nutrient that it's ideal to be on a supplement for. But, you know, the rest of them, you can definitely get it from plant-based sources.
And is there a certain kind of people or people with certain conditions that would not be, it would not be recommended for them to be on a plant-based diet?
You know, it would really depend on the individual. You know, let's say somebody it has low B12 levels, like really, really low. They could always get an injection for that, but you know, maybe they could just introduce meat for a little while so that they can get it from a food source, if that was their choice, if they were open to that. You know, that might be something. You know, maybe somebody's low in iron. You know, you definitely can get iron from plant-based foods, you know, beans, lentils, nuts, and seeds, but maybe, you know, to help overcome that, they could be on a supplement, or they could decide, you know what, I'm so low on iron, let me just have a little bit of meat for a short time to up that. So it really depends what this person's goals are, you know, and how strict they are on that plant-based eating. So again, it's sort of this individualized approach, but I can't say that there's a condition off the top of my head where I would say you can't be plant-based. Let's just make sure we're doing a good job of including enough of those foods so that you're able to get adequate amounts of those nutrients.
Okay, let's talk weight management when it comes to, you know, being a plant-based diet or in that kind of regime. What are the requirements of that? We've seen people who've like, I'm trying to lose weight, and so I'm going to try this plant-based thing and just see how that goes. Would you recommend that? Or is there also another thing that you need to look at when it comes to the portionings of that?
So that's a really good question. So there's a million ways somebody can lose weight. So I always ask them, is this sustainable for you? Is this something that's going to be enjoyable for you? Because if you're just doing it because you think you're going to lose weight that way, but you love your meat, then I don't think that that is a good approach for you, because we can still lose weight by including meat in our diet. Again, it's always up to the individual. But typically, plant-based diets are going to be lower in calories just because we're having a lot of fruits and vegetables, which are lower in calories than a lot of these other animal products. So, you know, it can be a way to lose weight, but I wouldn't say that it's necessarily more effective than other ways to lose weight, because it's really important to look at the individual.
And what it is that they want to gain from that. What about the portioning? Do we go the other direction, the portioning that you'd taught us before, or what happens?
So the plate would still be the same. So I would still have half my plate fruits and vegetables. My grains would be plant-based, you know, because, you know, quinoa, brown rice, all that stuff is plant-based anyways. The only thing that would change is that my protein is now coming from beans, legumes, you know, lentils, soy products, whatever it is, depending the type of plant-based eater that they are. You know, do they have fish? Do they not? You know, do they have eggs? Do they not? You know, do they have have yogurt and dairy products, do they not?
Yeah.
So the plate would stay the same though.
Okay. And I love the fact that you say it is very, very individualistic, that you need to decide that this is the path that I want to take, and it is sustainable.
Absolutely.
Especially if you want to be losing weight when you're walking that path.
Absolutely.
There also be an argument that if I want to leave this life, if I'm choosing this for myself, then it's a bit expensive to get some of the things that I need to to live a plant-based life.
Yeah, interesting, because it's actually cheaper.
Yes.
You know, so if we look at it, just think you're in the supermarket, right? Compare the price of a kilo of beans to a kilo of beef. It's much cheaper, right? You know, so just looking at things like that, it's actually much cheaper to have a plant-based diet. But if you're going to be doing all these, you know, higher end type products like quinoa, you know, it is going to be more expensive then. But you don't need quinoa in your plant-based diet. You can do brown rice. You know, so again, it's coming down to that individualized approach. What is your budget? What foods do you like to have? How strict do you want to be? So you can definitely make it fit within a budget. And I find it much cheaper to have more of a plant-based diet, especially regarding the proteins.
I think we have really, really amazing products in this country.
We do.
So,
we do.
And it's easy to just grow some if you can.
Yes, absolutely. There's so many beans and lentils. I mean, there's an entire aisle in the supermarket. You'll never get bored. Yes, it's amazing. That's one of my favorite things about Kenya is such the variety, yes.
And our time is up, Ashley.
Wow.
It just goes by so fast.
It does.
Goes by so fast. Yes. How can people get in touch with you directly?
Yes.
Social media, location, physical location.
Yes, absolutely. So my office is at Performance Medicine in Parklands off of Iregi Road. And then people can also find me on Instagram. So it's .time, spelled like the herb, underscore. So it's .THYME underscore, or just search Ashley Kibutha.
And then we'll find you.
You'll find me. I'm eating a big piece of chocolate cake in my photo, so you can't miss it.
What?
What? All foods fit. Everything in moderation and proper portion. Yes.
Thank you so much for coming through, Ashley. Every time I bite into my chocolate fudge cake, I feel guilty.
No guilt.
I love it.
No guilt. Enjoy that.
Okay.
Yes.
Gonna get one after the show.
Do it.
We'll be right back after this break. This is Phil Tuco with Mikali. Don't go too far.